Hello, this is Jerry. I'm playing Oxygen Not Included. And this is my Moonlet playthrough, starting on cycle 108. We're just about to get there. And beginning this cycle, I noticed the water geyser has started to be active. And that would have been nice much earlier. I already built a pitcher pump in the same area that has water delivered from the polluted water system, converting it to water. Now, this water here is 95 degrees, but it really doesn't matter that it's that hot when you've got a pitcher pump and your dupes to pick it up and put it in the research station and other things. So, not that useful to me right now, but there it is. In the last episode, I did some research on solar panels. Now I'm doing some research on glass forge. I want to do that so I can produce more glass to build the solar panels that I have access to. Just checking in on the one dupe that I have over in this world. I already brought back engineer because I needed to build some automation, but artist is still here and they've got digging skills. And I'm going to get them to dig out some more copper ore because I suspect long term I'll definitely want that in my main base. Also going to have a look to see if there's any geysers that they could dig out for me. Hot polluted oxygen, infectious polluted oxygen, and a steam vent. No thanks. I think I'll leave that alone. I do have an excess of polluted water that's come from the polluted water vent, and my system that is removing the food poisoning is still functioning, so that's a good thing. The material research station has been pretty effective because it's just about to finish the second research project, which is a glass forge. And just when they do, actually there it is, I'm going to now turn off the Red Bull generator. That's consuming quite a bit of power. And I'm going to stop the radiation lamp at the same time, which is consuming uranium ore. So now that I've got the glass forge research, I need to choose a spot for it. And I generally will always want it to be above really cold water because that machine is going to produce molten hot liquid glass. So I want that to be cooled off before my dupes take it around and do something with it. I also need to convert it from liquid to a solid form of its glass in order to actually build with it. So I'm going to choose to build out here. I'm going to build a mesh tile and have a liquid vent such that the glass forge will push into that liquid vent, the pipe, and make sure that is insulated. And that's going to drop in that cold water below. And I also every day have to worry about food supply, so I'm choosing some of the younger critters. The reason I go for young critters is the older ones have a chance of producing additional eggs. Just watching the glass forge system be built here. Mesh tile has gone in. Also note that I've got an automation light system so that whoever is going to be operating that will have the well-lit bonus. Also going to put in a bin that's going to store the sand that's input to this machine. And I'm going to put a auto sweeper next to it. So what that's going to do is just going to allow the auto sweeper to put in the sand instead of having to make the dupes do it. With the rest of the cycle, I'm going to build a pipe that's going to connect the pump that's in that little bit of polluted water to push that into the polluted water to oxygen system, so I can finally turn that system on once I've got a few solar panels created above my base. Cycle 110 is going to arrive with a bit of a mystery for me. I have glass that I can see down here at the bottom. Almost 200 kilograms. You need 200 for each solar panel you want to generate. So I enable glass to show up on the right side to see the resources, but it's registering as 0 kilograms. And I've done this in every playthrough and it's always worked before, but for some reason that is showing up, and I've restarted my game by the way. It's showing up as 0 kilograms, even though I can clearly see that I have some at the bottom. And it allowed me to build a solar panel, so I guess this is just a bug with the resource menu in this case. I was a bit worried that the solar panel was actually producing no glass, even though it was consuming sand and power and all that, but no, fortunately I can still get my glass out of the system. I want to go on a space mission soon, so I brought in some extra copper ore. Now that that's there, I'm going to bring in about 4,000 kilograms of algae. And that's for oxygen production so that whoever is flying this thing isn't going to run out of oxygen when they're flying. With the last bit of the day, I'm going to start some research on the durable life support so I can upgrade a rocket in the future to a better living condition, whoever is going to be flying. But I'm not going to enable the red bolt generator just yet, so they'll just do the first two forms of research, and I'll do the advanced form of research material science later on. And to finish off, I'm just doing some cleanup as well as some oil by effect. So I'm going to start destroying some things I no longer need in the hope that this is going to prevent a game slowdown as can happen when you get into the advanced levels of this game. It is cycle 111. And starting off, picking off some critters to convert to meat for food purposes. And then I'm going to continue working on the polluted water to oxygen system. And I've got a sensor there to detect whether there's oxygen in a pipe. And if it is, it's going to enable that gas shut off and put it inside that gas reservoir. So I'm going to have two output pipes. One is going to be for the oxygen ultimately, that's going to go in the rest of the base, and the other is for everything else. And word of warning, that could include some polluted oxygen. So I'm going to put a deodorizer in there. For the pumps, I'm also going to have automation determine when they should run. They shouldn't necessarily run all the time. If the gas pressure is too low, I don't want it to run. So I've got a Atmos sensor there with ultimately going to have a setting of 250. So if the pressure drops below that, it won't run. The gas reservoir also has the automation output. I'm going to put a setting of that of 50-50 and put that in with the AND gate such that the pumps are only going to run if the pressure inside the chamber is 250 or more and there's 50% or less oxygen in that gas reservoir. For my space mission, I don't have enough algae. So I'm going to go back into the other world that artist is digging out some copper ore and get them to dig out and transmit some algae over to this world. So it's going to be a little bit safer for my dupes to travel and not run out of oxygen while they're in space. So just applying the lull by effect on a few eggs, and then I decide that it is time to destroy the first liquid reservoir that's filled with polluted oxygen or polluted water. And when you do that, that's going to drop a bottle of polluted water, and that's going to emit polluted oxygen. And 200 grams for each. That's enough for 2 dupes for each of those reservoirs. I just destroyed the 2 of them, so actually that's enough for 4 dupes worth of oxygen just from that if I can get those pumps running. Speaking of the pumps, those gas pumps aren't actually doing the right thing, or at least the pipes out of it aren't going in the right direction. I noticed I'm going to have to make a little change. So the output of the gas shutoff should only go into just the gas reservoir itself and nothing else, but it's going to have a secondary path. That's for everything else except for oxygen to follow out of it and just leak to the side of the gas reservoir. So my polluted water to oxygen system isn't going to run without polluted water. So I'm building a pipeline from the polluted water system. This is going to be the polluted water that no longer has the food poisoning, and send that into those liquid reservoirs that I keep building and destroying to build or to get some bottles of polluted water to feed into polluted oxygen. Just take a moment here to look at the Atmos sensor as it goes on and off. This is the thing that's going to shut the pumps off when the atmosphere gets too low, because there's no point in running and getting it to waste power effectively just to produce a very small amount of oxygen. Going over to the other planetoid just to make sure that the artist is bringing back algae to be able to start the first space mission. Cycle 113 isn't too exciting. I make a little bit of a change on the rocket to add an extra mesh tile and bin. I'm going to store algae and glass in that location later on. Despite the fact that the glass resource on the right is not showing the right amount of glass, I can see that I've got enough glass to create a couple different solar panels. So as glass is available, I'm adding them because production of glass itself takes power. So the more I have these, the easier things will be. The last thing for this cycle is I'm going to double the number of gas masks. I currently only have 4. So that means with dupes that are going to go up into the rocket and build things and build these solar panels, only 4 can go up at a time. But with 8, I'll be able to get a lot more done. The next few cycles, I'm just pretty much waiting for glass to be manufactured so I can get all those solar panels created. But I am noting that I've got a few heat blemishes, 2 from the electrolyzer and 1 from the hot water geyser. Something I can deal with a little bit later on. The next few cycles are, again, not too exciting. This is because I'm waiting for some glass to be created. But ultimately, this is going to lead to a solar array sitting at the top of my base. And I checked during the middle of the day, I'm getting over 200 watts of power for each of them. So that's a decent amount of free power that I'm just going to be getting, and I'm going to start to be able to putting that into use, such as the material research station. I currently have a polluted water oxygen system, but I also want to get an electrolyzer that's in a room that's going to have pumps in it, such that hydrogen just doesn't float all around my base as it currently is. So I brought a second dupe back over to this world where I'm digging out copper ore. That's engineer. So I'm hoping that I'm not going to need some Mechatronics skill in my main base for the next little while. Also decide I'm going to upgrade the quality of life. I'm going to start off with a pump. And I'm going to be able to have a washroom with inside this space. And I'm going to pump the polluted water with food poisoning out. And I'm going to have that processed in my main base. So I've noticed that the sensor at the bottom of the base that looks for oxygen and turns off the pump if there's oxygen isn't working. That's because there's a little bit of polluted oxygen in the area. So I'm going to have to bring in some deodorizers just to make sure that detection happens correctly. I'm having a bin with 800 kilograms of manufactured material, that's glass, be put inside the rocket. So I'm going to stop building solar panels for a while and wait for that to be filled, because when this rocket arrives in the new planetoid, I want it to have the ability to build at least 4 solar panels, reducing the amount of time that my dupes that are discovering a new world have to spend on a manual generator. Also building an electrolyzer, or not electrolyzer, oxygen diffuser in a battery for life support system for when they're transporting on the rocket. So I'm selecting 2 dupes that is going to go on the first rocket mission. I need 1 pilot and 1 dupe to actually land and be the first to explore a new planetoid. So I'm going to have Explorer do the actual landing, and I'm going to nominate Doctor to be the actual pilot. And they don't have any skills. I haven't given them any skills at this point, ignoring that, but I'm going to give them now the rocket piloting skill that's going to allow them to drive the rocket. And I'm going to skill scrub Explorer so that when they go over to this new world, they're not overskilled and get stressed out. After attending to some eggs, it's time to go over to the inverted world and upgrade this latrine to a washroom. So I'm going to have 2 sinks and 2 lavatories. And the nice thing about that is the dupes over here won't have to unplunge the outhouses every so often. But I'm going to get a problem if I have polluted water backed up. So I'm going to go into this world, which is not set up for this yet, but I'm going to build a pipe that goes from the output of here to the output with the rest of the washroom and everything else. So that ultimately is going to feed into the system that handles the food poisoning that's inside the polluted water. So we're at the cycle 121, and there's a lot of tasks to be done because I've noticed there's a battery in the rocket that hasn't been built. That's because there's still solar panels to be built. I got new pipes, and what I'm doing now is putting masks in 4 new mask stations so that more than just 4 dupes can go up there and do stuff. Also going to set that at high priority. Kind of think the game should make filling masks a higher priority, but it doesn't, so I find it's beneficial to bump up the priority of that. I'm going to put a pitcher pump over the other asteroid, and I've noticed there's 2 new smooth hatches. I currently have 5, so that'll take me up to 7. So that's looking good, and I'll finish off this cycle destroying 2 of the liquid reservoirs that are filled with polluted water. Cycle 122, now that I'm comfortable with the amount of copper ore I have, I'm having the fire pole extended down so that they can rush down to the glass forge when they want to do some work on that. I'm still running the incubator. I'm not incubating every single egg. I mean, I've got over 50 pip eggs 10 stone hatch eggs. So maybe doing perhaps between 5 to 10 eggs, applying the lullaby effect. And I'm going to get to the point where I'm only going to start to apply the lullaby effect on new eggs that are dropped, and just let the other eggs hatch naturally. I'm going to be sending Explorer to on a space mission. They're going to land, so I want them to have digging skills when they get there. The last thing I really need on my rocket at this point is glass and food. So I'm upping the priority of glass to make sure that at the end of the cycle I'll at least have the 800 kilograms of that sitting in the rocket. At the start of 123, I'm having some extra food be created. That's because I'm hoping to get that rocket launched. And food is the last thing that I want to put in the rocket because it goes stale over the time. So having more fresh food put in there is better compared to other things like glass that doesn't matter. So I'm double checking everything, make sure I got my 800 kilograms of glass. I'm going to wait till I have enough food, about 6 kilograms. 3 is not quite enough because I've got some muckruta in there, which is heavy with low calorie. I also make sure I've got a battery, oxidizer, the algae to run in the oxidizer, and copper to build a manual generator when I eventually do get up in space. So everything's looking good that way. I'm just going to check the oxygen level inside there. A bit of carbon dioxide. So when dupes use masks, they can breathe oxygen, but they still output carbon dioxide. So that's how that's happening. I think I can live with that for this trip. Oh, I forgot pipes. There's no water going inside that rocket, which means that lavatory is not going to be functioning. So probably not going to launch this cycle. Perhaps get this built at the end of this cycle, and next cycle perhaps we will launch a rocket into space going to the oil asteroid. Notice that the pipes aren't being built that quickly, so I'm going to turn off the glass forge temporarily. Also notice the pump that's pumping out the carbon dioxide is the gas reservoir is full with carbon dioxide and has no more place to go. So that's just going in an infinite loop, being vented back out. So I'm going to turn that pump off and wait to build another gas reservoir for carbon dioxide before I turn it back on. So that did the trick. My dupes are now spending their attention on the pipes. And once that gets built, that'll start delivering water inside the rocket, which will fill the lavatory for use while travel. I'm having my dupes build a second gas reservoir that's going to store more carbon dioxide. That'll get the carbon dioxide out of my base with that pump finally, because my dupes can't breathe carbon dioxide, as well as this is going to store more energy for short-range rockets. Okay, so I'm just doing final double check on make sure everything is in existence in my rocket, including foods. They've got about 12,000 calories. I'm going to have the rocket travel to the neighboring asteroid. I can't go onto it because it doesn't have a platform, but I'm going to go right next to it. And I'm going to, so currently I've got 1,200 kilograms of refined metal with me, a trailblazer so that the dupes can land when they get there. I'm getting the dupes to board. And I'm going to take their mask off as soon as they arrive and destroy the storage bin of food. And I'm going to convert that to a manual generator after they create it. But there it goes. May have built my rocket slightly too close to that solar panel. I might bump up that rocket platform 1 or 2 tiles. But there it is. Rocket is on their way. They decided to take a break as soon as they have launched. That's fine. They can destroy that storage bin of food after. Okay, I've got a glass forged together. Got enough glass for a solar array on top of my base. A few more spots on the insides to complete that, but I can do that in the next episode. I've also launched a rocket towards the oil asteroid, so I'm going to get oil and some other resources to do more advanced stuff. Also, still relying on the incubator for these pip eggs, but I've got over 50 eggs, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get to the point where I'll only need to incubate new eggs, and eventually not even incubate any eggs altogether to provide barbecue for my dupes. Anyways, if you want to see what I do with my rocket and some of the future plans, like this video, subscribe, and see you in a future video.